Thank you for coming today. I'm Gloria Allred, and then I'll introduce each person who's with me individually. Today I'm here with three women who have decided that it's important for them to speak out and share with the public for the first time what they say happened to them when they had the misfortune to meet Bill Cosby. Although it is too late for these three new accusers to take any legal action against Mr. Cosby because of the statute of limitations, these three courageous women want Mr. Cosby to be held accountable for what they believe was his misconduct towards them. I am honored that these brave women reached out to me for legal advice and support so that their voices could be heard, and I'm proud to represent them. They are not the first, but they will also not be the last to speak out about their accusations against Mr. Cosby. As Federal Judge Eduardo C. Robrino said in his memorandum, in which he decided to grant the request of the Associated Press to release excerpts of Mr. Cosby's deposition taken in the lawsuit filed by Andre Constant in 2005, quote, "The stark contrast between Bill Cosby, the public moralist, and Bill Cosby, the subject of serious allegations concerning improper and perhaps criminal conduct, is a matter as to which the AP, and by extension the public, has a significant interest," end quote. Finally, before I introduce them, I would like to comment on the decision of three universities to strip Mr. Cosby of honorary degrees, which they had conferred on him. Marquette, Fordham, and this week, Brown University rescinded those honorary degrees. This action by three universities is unprecedented. One of Mr. Cosby's lawyers has reportedly complained publicly about the decision of Fordham to strip Mr. Cosby of this honor. My response is that any emotional distress or sense of injustice that Mr. Cosby may feel cannot compare to the immense suffering and sense of injustice that many accusers that I represent have endured as a result of what they allege Mr. Cosby had done to them. So we shed no tears for Mr. Cosby. As I stated previously, Mr. Cosby has nobody to blame but himself for his choices and for his actions. There should be serious consequences for anyone who intentionally harms or endangers the health, safety, or life of innocent women and girls. I believe that it is long overdue for this, quote, public moralizer, end quote, to face the full consequences of his misconduct against women and girls. Now, I would like to introduce each individual woman who's here before she reads her statement. The first will be Pamela Abbe. Pamela is a retired chauffeur who has raised three beautiful children, and she now has 5 wonderful grandchildren. Pamela.
My name is Pam. For 30 years I have been holding a secret that is so overwhelming that I have not spoken about it until now. I also am a victim of Bill Cosby. Back in 1979, when I was 25 years old, a mutual friend sent me to Bill Cosby's producer to see him at the residence in Orange County for an interview. I thought it might lead to an opportunity with Playboy because I knew Mr. Cosby was a friend with Hugh Hefner, so I went. As soon as I arrived in Orange County at his producer's home, the producer made a phone call right away to Bill Cosby telling him we'd be on the next flight to Las Vegas. We jumped on the next flight to Vegas and we arrived at the Las Vegas Hilton just as Bill Cosby's show was just ending. I was led down to his dressing room and I heard Mr. Cosby say to the audience, "Good night, ladies and gentlemen." He appeared 5 to 10 minutes later in his dressing room where I was waiting with his manager. Mr. Cosby asked me if I would go upstairs, if I'd like to go upstairs and freshen up. We went upstairs to the Elvis Presley's penthouse. Mr. Cosby instructed me to put my things in the first bedroom to the left. There were other bedrooms in the penthouse. Mr. Cosby asked if I wanted to go downstairs, and he gave me $200 to gamble. He played cards and mingled with a lot of people. At about 1 a.m. I was very tired and decided I wanted to go back upstairs to rest. I went up to my room and went to sleep. Bill Cosby woke me up about 8 a.m. in the morning by making noise in the kitchen area. We began to talk a bit. Coffee and breakfast were brought to the room. He asked me if I had an evening gown or something nice to wear to the champagne dinner that night at the show. I showed him a black dress that I had brought, but he said it was not suitable, so he sent me downstairs to the hotel shops to buy a long gray gown, shoes, and a clutch bag. I spent about $2,500, which was put on his room charge. Soon after that, back upstairs, I got ready for the show. The producer and his wife arrived at my room, and we went to the show together. When we got downstairs, we were seated in the front of the dinner table. I saw several other stars. I remember eating and watching most of the show, but right before the show was over, everything became a blur. I believe someone had put something in my drink. I don't remember leaving the dinner show, and when I came to, I was lying in Bill Cosby's bed. Not in my own room. I'm sorry. I had awakened for the second and then blacked out. When I came to again, I saw two other naked people in the room by the bed. Bill was sitting on the side of the bed, and I had blacked out again. I woke up the next morning in my own room. I got up and left the hotel the next morning, not even knowing what went on through that night. I barely remember how I got to the airport, or even how I got home. I knew I flew home, but it was still all in a fog. My friend asked me about the meeting with Cosby. He asked me how it went, because he said he had sent other girls to Mr. Cosby. I never told him the real truth about what had happened because I was so ashamed of what had happened. That is not at all what I had expected from the meeting with Mr. Cosby. And in closing, I would like to say that I kept this to myself for so long because I believe that it was my fault for putting myself in that position. It took me many months to come forward because I was ashamed and it might cause shame to my family. But then I realized I am the victim and how much this has bothered me all these years.
Next is Lisa Christie. Lisa is one of the nation's top fitness experts. She has just released her first book, America the Windstorm, to empower people for living. Lisa is also a television host, professional model, actor, singer, producer, and director, and private coach for modeling, acting, pageantry, personal training, and nutrition. She is a former Mrs. America, 1997 to 1998, and she speaks and ministers at conferences and churches throughout the nation on domestic violence. Lisa is the mother of 3 beautiful daughters, and she and her husband own a martial arts school in Buffalo, New York. And we have provided photos of each, and they'll all hold up their photos when we're finished. And so, and I'll hold up the book. So, Lisa. Okay.
I met Bill when I came back from modeling in Germany. I was 18 years old and modeling with IMG models. I was given a new booker, and she was not sending me out on potential jobs. So I left IMG and signed with Sue Charney at Faces Agency. Sue said she was friends with Bill Cosby, and one day she brought us to the Cosby Show. After the show, Bill lined up the models against the wall to pick the one to whom he wanted to talk. He came over and he spoke with me. I told him that I wanted to act, and that's how our relationship began. I saw Bill as a father figure. I began to go on Jell-O commercials with him, and he placed me as an extra on the Cosby Show a couple of times. I met him at his brownstone for acting lessons, and I even met him at a jazz club in the Village, where he had me dressed to look like Lisa Bonet. He said that he wanted me to replace her on the Cosby Show. Bill told me that if I was serious about acting, if I was serious about being an actor, I needed to go to college. He told me to go back to college to Buffalo. I took his advice and I registered at Buffalo State College for theater and dance. Bill would fly me back and forth between New York City and Buffalo. He waited almost 2 years before he tried anything on me, because he knew because he knew that I was a virgin and I was raised as a Christian. After starting college, I was offered a co-host position for an NBC affiliate show called Wedding Magazine. Bill called me and booked a flight for me to meet him in Chicago at the Ambassador East Hotel. He said he wanted to see if I should be an anchor on television or continue with my acting career. He also said that he wanted me to audition for a role in the movie Ghost Dad. When I arrived, Bill was sitting down in his pajamas and smoking a cigar, and he said, "Go have a seat at the table. I have dinner ready for you. You eat while I watch your television show, Wedding Magazine." My red flag went up. And when I finished eating, he said, "Come over here and sit next to me on the couch and have a drink." Bill had the drink in his hand ready for me. I told Bill that I wasn't a drinker, and then it gave me a stomachache. And he kept insisting. So I took a sip. I told him that I just couldn't drink it. Bill then had me go over to another area of the room to sit down, and he instructed me to read the newspaper like an anchor would. And when I finished, he said, "Let's do an acting exercise." And Bill told me to close my eyes and to use my imagination. And then he tried to kiss me like a boyfriend would. So I pushed him away and I said, "What are you doing?" And Bill said, "You told me that you loved me." And I responded, "When you told me I love you on the phone, I meant I love you like a dad." And he raised his voice and said, "You owe me." And I said, "I never asked you for anything." And then he changed his tone and he said, "I'll give you the biggest orgasm you've ever had." And I didn't even know what that meant at the time. Bill then yelled, "Well, you're never going to make it in this business unless you sleep with me." And I responded, "Shame on you, Mr. Father Figure of America. Your kids are older than I am." And then I said, "You just messed with one of God's children, and you're in big trouble, mister. And I want a flight out of here right now." And Bill told me that there were no more flights leaving that night. And I asked him, where was I sleeping? And he said, "Here," as he's backing up through a big open door into his bedroom saying, "This is your last chance. If you want to make it in this business, you have to sleep with me." And I told Bill that I was sleeping on the couch. And the next morning, as I was leaving the hotel room for my flight, Bill said, "Call me tomorrow." And I said, "Bill, I will never talk to you or see you again." Last year in February, I released my first book called America the Windstorm, and shared part of my story on page 149 to 150 about Bill, never mentioning the name of the celebrity, but now I can. With Mr. Cosby, I was one of the fortunate ones. Now I'm here to support all the victims. Thank you.